We are here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Also, hit that bell icon so you never miss any one of my videos. Please like and share this video so you can help the podcast grow. And please follow me on Facebook and Twitter. That is at Lopes Goes Last podcast on Facebook and at Lopes Goes Last on Twitter. Links to those will be down in the description below, as always. So I am back after a week off. Just to give you a quick little explanation. So last week I pretty much took what I'm calling a mental health week. I have just had, quite frankly, a rough few weeks. A lot of changes personally, a lot of changes work-wise. And so last week it just kind of all got to me a little bit. And so I decided that instead of putting a bad foot forward for the podcast last week, I would instead take that week to rest, recuperate, and try and ease up a little bit and just kind of chill. And so now I am back here this week to bring you a little bit of what I would have talked about last week, and then of course what I planned on talking about this week with some things that have come up. So first thing I want to get into this week is going to be the NBA Finals. Obviously that happened while I have been gone. While I took my week off, the NBA Finals was kind of just wrapping up. And so now I get to talk about it here instead of last week. So I do apologize for it taking a little bit longer than it usually does. But the NBA Finals, I will say, went pretty much exactly how I thought it would. I think I actually told some people that I thought that the Heat were going to win, the Nuggets were going to beat the Heat in 5 games. I assumed the Heat would steal like Game 3 or Game 4 or something like that. They ended up winning Game 2, but, push comes to shove. That doesn't really matter all that much. Still got it. Nuggets in 5 was my prediction, and that's exactly how it ended up panning out. Not really a whole lot to talk about, quite frankly, with the finals. I mean, I don't really think anything happened that surprised me. I don't think really anything happened that truly made me second guess what was going on. I will say when the Heat found a way to win Game 2, I did have a couple of thoughts where I sat there and went, maybe the Heat do have a little bit better of a chance than I thought. They won in Denver. They outplayed them in the fourth quarter like crazy, and it was just one of those things where I thought, maybe if the Heat can sustain this, but the Nuggets bounced right back and pretty much stepped on their throats and didn't even give them any sort of hope. And the Nuggets were just better. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. The Heat didn't have enough talent, I thought, to really be in the finals. I really thought the Celtics should have won in 7. They really should have won quicker than that, but unfortunately they kind of blew it. So it is what it is. But the Heat were just out-talented at every level of that series. Jokic, guys, Nikola Jokic is he's an animal. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable what he's doing right now in the world of basketball. I know in my lifetime I have never seen a center do what he's doing, and I'm not sure basketball as a whole has ever seen a center do what he's doing. I know towards the end of his career, Wilt Chamberlain was a guy that was a good passer and a facilitator, but I mean, you're talking about a guy in his prime in current NBA basketball that's averaging 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists a night, and basically averaged a triple-double in the playoffs. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing as a center. But nonetheless, the Nuggets winning did not shock me at all. I want to say congratulations to them, obviously, for winning, and congratulations to the Heat. I mean, I feel like now at this point, as long as Jimmy Butler is there, no matter what seed they are, they should be a favorite to win the East in the playoffs. Because you saw it this year, right? Everybody wrote them off, including me. I didn't think the Heat had any chance. They almost didn't even make the playoffs. They had to win the second play-in game and make a huge fourth quarter comeback against the Bulls just to do that, just to make it into the playoffs at all. So you're talking about a team that was 8 minutes, 7 minutes of game time away from not even making the playoffs, and they go to the finals. Last year, basically the same team, they were the 1 seed. So I just don't know, and most people I feel like just don't know what the Heat are going to give you on a night-to-night basis, other than they're going to give you grit, they're going to give you toughness, and they are going to outwork you. And oftentimes that's enough to get you pretty far, not only in this league but in life. That's really just the way it is. So congratulations to Miami, an improbable run to the NBA Finals. Part of me was really hoping that they would win, not because I wanted them to. I didn't, obviously, but I feel like if Jimmy Butler wins a championship, he'll like calm down a little bit and stop averaging 75 points a game in the playoffs, although he did not play well in these finals. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. You know, playoff Jimmy really did not play all that well in the finals, but you know what? One man can only do so much, and he didn't really have a whole lot of help, quite frankly. Bam Adebayo played pretty well in a few of the games, but you need a lot more than that if you're going to win the NBA Finals. So, yeah, congratulations to Denver. Obviously, Nikola Jokic wins Finals MVP. I have heard a lot of people now talking about how Jokic should have won regular season MVP. And I hate that argument. So I hate the argument, not necessarily that I thought that, not necessarily the argument that Jokic should have won. I just can't stand the arguments of if somebody doesn't completely play like out of their minds in the playoffs and they won MVP in the regular season, that means that they shouldn't have won it because it's a regular season award, right? So it just doesn't make sense to me at all. I thought Joel Embiid had a better regular season than Nikola Jokic. Now, Nikola Jokic had a clearly much better team than Joel Embiid had. I mean, on paper, you would think that the 76ers would have been better, but you saw it in the playoffs. They didn't have enough in the playoffs. You know, Tobias Harris just is not the 20-plus point per game scorer he used to be. Tyrese Maxey is a young up-and-coming guard, but he has his flaws on the defensive end and on the offensive end. James Harden is not the same as he once was. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned, whether he wins a championship or not, just based on statistics, based on the fact that he's won MVP. There's all these different reasons why, but he's not the same James Harden as he was, and he played terrible in the playoffs. And if that's your number 2, then you're going to struggle in the playoffs. So, yeah, I thought that obviously Jokic had a better team. They were the 1 seed in the West for a reason. Jamal Murray is an absolute animal. Michael Porter Jr. had a great playoff run, and he's obviously big, tall, versatile, can pretty much do anything on the floor. Jeff Green, who's like 5 million years old, was playing well for them. Bruce Brown is great. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been a starter for them all season. I kind of wrote him off. I didn't really think that he had a whole lot to give as a starter, but I mean, he was so important for them defensively and offensively. So, and he also brought championship experience because he's obviously won a championship with the Lakers before. So, I thought the Denver Nuggets were just a better team, and so Joel Embiid winning the MVP, I thought that he had a better season than Nikola Jokic. I know Jokic has had more assists and everything, but I'm one of those guys that I just really wanted Joel Embiid to win one MVP, and I thought if he wasn't going to win it this year and Jokic wins a 3rd MVP in a row, then at this point we are just giving it's like the Shohei Ohtani of basketball, who I'll talk about Shohei Ohtani a little bit later, but you know, Nikola Jokic was turning into the Shohei Ohtani of basketball, which means, you know, hey, this guy's just doing things that nobody else is capable of doing, so we're just going to give him the MVP every year. And I don't think that that's fun. I mean, yeah, it makes sense logistically, but I think that there's, you know, I think that there's a reason why we love the fact that Derrick Rose won the MVP in 2011, even though, let's be honest with ourselves, LeBron James had a much better season statistically than Derrick Rose, but it's the story. It's, you know, the Chicago was the 1 seed, and he was the heart and soul of that team, and he was putting up 30 points a night, and he was making all these highlight plays. Like, I loved it. I loved it. I really, really did. So it makes sense. I get it, but there's a reason why we love those stories. There's a reason why, the MVP doesn't go to the best player in baseball or football or basketball every single year. Even though arguably it should, sure. But I think not that it shouldn't go to somebody different every year. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I do think that sometimes people get, kind of voting fatigue of the same person over and over again, and I think that costs people some MVPs. Like Kobe Bryant only won one MVP. I think that is criminal. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know how he didn't win MVP more than once in his lifetime, and we pretty much universally consider him a top 5 or top 10 player in NBA history. And he won one MVP ever. And Steve Nash, who I love Steve Nash, he was one of my favorite players growing up. Really, he was, truly. He is nowhere near the level of Kobe Bryant, and he's won 2 MVPs. So, it's one of those things where, it's not perfect, but I'm happy that Joel Embiid won 1 MVP because he deserved it, and I thought he deserved it last year, too. I said publicly on this podcast, I thought Joel Embiid should have won the MVP. But I'm happy he won it this year, and he 100% deserved it. So I hate that argument that people that don't play incredible in the postseason that won MVP don't deserve the MVP. Maybe they feel they might not deserve the MVP as an individual, but there's a reason why it's regular season MVP and not everything MVP that you hand out at the end of the season. Because that wouldn't make sense. You know why? Because it would go to the finals MVP every year. So there'd just be a whole nother set of issues there that, you got a finals MVP. Oh, Nikola Jokic is finals MVP. Well, hey, he was second in MVP voting in the regular season anyway. Might as well give it to him. That's what it would be every single year. Whoever would win finals MVP, unless it was some role player, no offense, like Andre Iguodala who won finals MVP one year, and he would have been nowhere near the MVP conversation. Pretty much every year you're giving it to the finals MVP because it's the best player on the championship team. Most of the time. Your LeBrons, your Steph Currys, your Giannis's, your Jokic's, your, whoever it is. So, that's just kind of how I feel there. But getting back to the Nuggets, they just, I feel like we all counted them out weirdly. At least I feel like I did a little bit. I wasn't super worried about the Nuggets, and I would have loved to see the Celtics-Nuggets finals. But I don't think we would have beat them. Just watching the way they played and how ridiculous Jokic played in not only the finals, but especially in the Western Conference Finals, where he was hitting shots that I just was blowing my mind. It just is incredible what that guy was doing. And Jamal Murray is a bad man. Look, I think because he's been injured so much, we forgot how good he was in the bubble. But he dominated in the playoffs in the bubble. He played out of his mind well for the Nuggets in the postseason for Jamal Murray did. So and in the bubble. So, the fact that he's been injured for basically 2 years, I think it really kind of went, pushed him away in the back of our minds and went, whatever. Yeah, he's a good player. No, he's real. He steps up in the playoffs. He is not a guy that's going to shrink under the spotlight. I would have loved to have a Jamal Murray on the Celtics this year. I think if we have Jamal Murray on the Celtics this year instead of the cavalcade of point guards that didn't really do a whole lot this year outside of Derek White in the postseason, I think we win the finals. Truly I do. Now, it's obvious, right? You take the second best player on the championship team, put it on your team, and you were in the Eastern Conference Final, you probably win. Yeah, that's fair. But, that's just how I feel. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit, though, just kind of to retransition back to the MVP conversation. So, obviously, Nikola Jokic did not win MVP this year, right? He did win Finals MVP, and he won a championship this year. So, I feel like I do have to address this. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, I do not feel that this conversation should be happening, even though I'm going to have it right now. So, I guess I'm a little hypocritical. Fine. But with the way NBA media is at this point, and not just NBA media, but sports media in general, I feel like because Nikola Jokic now has won 2 MVPs, which only a handful of players in the history of basketball have. He has now won a championship. He has now won a finals MVP. He is still in his prime, and he is doing things on a basketball court that we have not seen people his size do, maybe ever. Do we have to start talking about Jokic already as an all-time great? Now again, I said this at the beginning and I will say it again. I do not think we should be having this conversation. But it's food for thought. I personally do not believe he's one of the greatest of all time yet. But if he keeps on this current trajectory, it's going to be tough to say. Now, I will say this. For those of you who are going to put in the comment section or put on social media or whatever that I'm an idiot for saying that and Nikola Jokic is nowhere near one of the greatest players of all time, I want you to keep this in mind. 3 years ago, was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was. When the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship, Giannis was crowned the greatest player in the NBA, the best player in the NBA at that point, probably. And he was considered at that point by many. He's a multiple-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, now an NBA champion and Finals MVP. He was looked at that point as one of the greatest players of all time. Top 25, top 30, top 40, top 50, whatever you want to say. He's already up there, according to people back then. And if you don't believe me, go look it up. What is the difference between Giannis and Jokic? Sure, Giannis is a better defender. I'll give you that. That's fine. Giannis has won Defensive Player of the Year. Jokic hasn't. Okay, all that's fair. But everything else, Jokic is a 2-time MVP. So is Giannis. Jokic has won 1 championship. So has Giannis. Jokic has won 1 Finals MVP. So has Giannis. So if we're going to put Giannis in that conversation, why are we not putting Jokic? For those of you who think neither of them belong, your logic is sound, and I get it. But if you think that Giannis is one of the greatest players of all time, keep in mind that their careers, their meaning Giannis and Jokic obviously, are following similar trajectories. They won an MVP around the same years. They won the finals around their same years in terms of age. I think Jokic is a little bit older than Giannis was when he won his MVPs and finals and stuff. But at the same time, it's pretty close. Jokic is obviously a much different player than Giannis. But at the same time, there's not a whole lot of differences there in terms of accolades outside of Defensive Player of the Year for Giannis. So if that is the separator, so does that mean, not to say that Jokic is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Clearly, he's never going to. He's not that he's a bad defender. He's just not that elite of a defender that he'll probably never win Defensive Player of the Year. So, but let's just in a pretend world say he does. Does that mean that he is one of the greatest of all time now? If that's the difference between the two? I don't know. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Food for thought. Let me know in the comments section if you guys think that Jokic is one of the greatest of all time. I say no, not yet. I think he could get there. I think that if he continues to play the way he plays, he probably will be there at some point. But I think right now it's a little bit too early to put the crown on him just yet. But I do think that at some point the NBA media is going to run with it. I haven't seen that they have yet. So maybe they're not going to. Maybe they've come to their senses a little bit. But we'll see. Just wanted to throw that out there. Food for thought a little bit. So about 3 months ago, I'd say, I put a video out on my channel predicting all of the division winners and all of the award winners for Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. And I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of an update on those, since we are, roughly speaking, halfway through the season. I think we're still a little less than halfway through the season. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at exact records in a while, at least not in that light. So I think we're right around halfway through the season, so it's I thought it'd be interesting, I should say, to revisit who I had said was going to win all those awards at the beginning of the year, and then revisit them now and see how those predictions are doing, and then give you some new predictions if I deem those new predictions to be necessary, which, spoiler, some of them, obviously, I do feel is necessary. So, let's start with the American League Cy Young Award. I believe I had said that I thought Garrett Cole was going to win the Cy Young this year. I thought that he made the most sense. I thought he was the most sensible to win the AL Cy Young Award this year. I thought this was finally going to be his year, and let's be honest, that pick doesn't look all that bad right now. I would say if he's not the favorite right now, he's number 2 behind, which makes me so happy and proud. Shane McClanahan is up there as well for the Tampa Bay Rays. And so, quite frankly, I think at this point, it's a coin flip between the two. Whichever you prefer. I'd obviously prefer Shane McClanahan. I'd much rather Shano win a Cy Young than to be right on my video. I mean, that's just so awesome. You know, I grew up with him, for those of you who don't know. We played baseball for a couple of years together in travel ball when we were teenagers. We lived in the same area. Didn't go to the same high school or anything, but he's a great guy, and so is his family. So I truly hope that he does win it. If not this year, then obviously at some point, and he's an absolute stud, and he deserves it. So I hope Shano wins it. But obviously, in terms of this video for my pick, which was Garrett Cole, that's a pretty solid pick right now. I haven't looked at the odds recently, but I know he spent most of the year as number 1, and I think maybe he slipped to number 2 now behind Shane at this point. If not, they're pretty much neck and neck. So I would say it's a pretty solid prediction. So either one of those is good. But I say I'm rooting for Shane at this point to win it, because who wants a Yankee to win a Cy Young Award? I mean, I guess Chase Burke. Chase Burke probably does. But outside of him, nobody else. Nobody wants a Yankee to win. NL Cy Young Award. So I had picked Max Scherzer, as far as I can remember, to win the Cy Young Award. And I have not looked at Max's stats, but I know that he was injured for a part of the year, and the Mets aren't really doing all that well, so my guess is Max Scherzer is not doing all that well either. So let me see if I can pull up some of Max Scherzer's stats here. Yeah, he's not doing too hot, although his ERA is a little bit inflated because he had a pretty rough outing a couple days ago against the Yankees. So his ERA is 4.45 this year. He is 5-2, so I guess it's not a terrible record. He's only pitched in 11 games so far this year, so he has not really done a whole lot. So that's a bad take. But you know what? You take a shot in the dark and you hope it works out. But it just didn't this year, and that's fine. Or at least it hasn't so far. You never know. He could pitch 20 shutouts in a row. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. But right now, there are a few names that are bouncing around in my head that I feel like at this point statistically could be considered Cy Young favorites. So my personal pick, I would say, if I had to choose one guy that I think could win Cy Young in the NL based on everything that I have seen right now, I am picking, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Zach Gallen, Arizona Diamondbacks ace, who I had actually mentioned in my previous podcast episode as guys that I thought were taking a big step up this year and coming into their own, even though Zach Gallen's been a great pitcher for the last few years. But this year, he has not only been a good pitcher, he has stepped into the Cy Young Award light that we had all hoped that he would turn and come into. So I would say Zach Gallen is probably my pick right now to win Cy Young. I think he has been a little bit more consistent than the field. Spencer Strider is a guy that's been at the top of a lot of people's lists. Excuse me. And I will say, certainly, I think that he is the best pitcher on the best team in the NL right now, so it makes sense. But he has not really pitched all that well since early to mid-May. I mean, he's kind of been a little more human, I guess. He started off the year just ripping and tearing through lineups. And certainly he hasn't been bad over the last handful of months. He's just been a little bit more pedestrian. And so it is possible that teams are starting to figure him out. It also could just be a little bit of a rough patch as well. But I would say Zach Gallen, I kind of pick him to be a little more consistent. I haven't seen enough of Spencer Strider for me to trust him in a full year's work to see if he can maintain that level of success or if it kind of tapers down as the year goes along, as it does tend to do with some young pitchers. But we will see what happens. But there is another name that I want to throw out there. And it's another name that I cannot believe I'm saying. But seriously, look up his stats and you will know I'm not lying to you. I am going to pick a Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher. That's a lot of P's right in a row. Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher. Oh, pick a Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher. It's like what's that nursery rhyme? Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper. Whatever. I'm losing my mind. So I'm picking a Pittsburgh Pirate pitcher, lots of P's, to pin the Pai Pung Award this year. No, I'm not. But I'm going to throw his name out there. I will stop. Sorry. His name is Mitch Keller. If you don't know who Mitch Keller is, look up his stats this year. I think he's 8-1 or 8-2. He's got around a 3 ERA. His strikeout to walk ratio is insane. He had a stretch where he struck out like 9 or 10 guys in like 6 or 7 straight games that he'd pitched. I mean, he is thoroughly dominating guys. Now, I think in early to mid-May, kind of similar to Strider, he had a couple bad games, but he's bounced back since then. He's had a couple good games in a row now for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh now is not like a bottom feeder where you're not going to pick a Cy Young Award winner from a bottom feeder team, although the Marlins had a Cy Young Award winner last year. But, it's more likely that especially if they make the playoffs, that Mitch Keller would be in that conversation. So those three guys at the top, Zach Gallen, Spencer Strider, and Mitch Keller are my 3 picks. Sorry, there's a bug flying around. But yeah, my one prediction would be Zach Gallen. If I had to take one, gun to my head, pick one, I'm going Zach Gallen. But any of those 3 guys certainly could win it, and I could see it, but I'll go Zach Gallen. Rookie of the Year. Let's start in the NL this time. This one's easy. I picked Corbin Carroll to win Rookie of the Year, and he's winning Rookie of the Year in the NL, and it's really not close. I don't... I mean, I think he might be favored for MVP. MVP? Yep. Perfect. MVP at this point. Which, I don't know about that. I know he's had a really good year, but I'm not sure I'd put him that high yet. But granted, nobody since Ichiro has won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season, and Corbin Carroll could do it, and it's not like Ichiro is a bad player in the history books. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, or he's going to be whenever he's eligible. Certainly Corbin Carroll, I'm not even going to go into it all that much. He has some of the best statistics in all of the National League. That is undisputable. He is the heart and soul of that lineup. He's the heart and soul of that team right now. And the Diamondbacks are, at least in my mind, violently overperforming. I mean, they are just not overperforming as in they're a really bad team that's winning. They just are. I didn't think that they were going to be this good until next year, and they are a year ahead of what I thought that they would be. And I think I said that last video too. So yeah, they're fantastic, and they're playing really well. They might even be in first place in the West. I haven't looked in a few days, so they might not be at this point. They're up there anyway. They're close. So Corbin Carroll winning Rookie of the Year in the NL. AL Rookie of the Year. If I remember correctly, I believe I picked Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles to win the AL Rookie of the Year. I'm sure that's not a terrible pick. I know he's doing well for them over there, but it's not the best pick, given the guys that are performing now. There's two guys in my mind that I think could win Rookie of the Year. The biased pick that I would say would be I almost didn't say his name right. Masataka Yoshida for the Red Sox. But here's the thing about Masataka Yoshida, right? So I think he's hitting about 315, 320, somewhere in that range. He's got a handful of home runs. He's clearly the best hitter outside of Rafael Devers in that lineup for the Red Sox. They don't really have a whole lot else. He's really good. And that's great. He is exactly who we thought he was coming into the league. He's a guy that's going to walk a lot. He's going to hit a lot. He's going to get on base. But the thing is I almost don't even look at him as a rookie because he's 29, something like that. I mean, he's older. He's not old. He's older for a rookie. And I think he's even said in interviews like, if I win Rookie of the Year, cool, I guess. But I don't look at myself as a rookie because he's played professional baseball for like 10 years in Japan. So like, I don't know. I mean, obviously that doesn't take him out of the running for Rookie of the Year. Like that doesn't matter. He's still an MLB rookie, so he's eligible. Like that's not disputed. I'm not trying to dispute that. But what I'm saying is like in my mind, like that's no fun. Like that was like a few years ago when Ben Simmons won Rookie of the Year, even though it was his second year in the NBA because he didn't play in his first year because he was injured the whole time. Everybody was like, well, he's not even a rookie. He's a second-year player. He just didn't play the whole time. Like, there's no difference between what happened to him and what happens to a second-round rookie that just sits the end of the bench the entire year and doesn't play a single minute. Like, that's the same. Like, does that mean that they're not a rookie? Like, because they didn't step on the court? So it's like one of these things that, yeah. So it was kind of like that. At least it's kind of like that for me. Obviously, it's not how it works, but you guys get what I'm saying. So the second guy that I think is going to win Rookie of the Year, if he keeps up this pace, is Josh Young, third baseman for the Texas Rangers. He's been outstanding this year. He's hitting about 300. He's got 12 or 13 home runs at this point. He's up there in terms of the AL lead in RBIs at this point. He's hitting right in the heart of that lineup, and the Rangers are a good team. And so that I think he is probably my favorite to win the AL Rookie of the Year right now. I haven't looked at the odds again in quite a while, so I don't know where he stacks up in those odds, but I mean, his statistics are fantastic for a rookie. And so I'm not thinking of anybody outside of those two guys that are up there in terms of MVP voting, unless I'm forgetting somebody obvious. And if I am, please put that in the comment section. As I said last video, I'm pretty sure I mentioned something like that. So, yeah, just please let me know. But Josh Young is my favorite to win the AL Rookie of the Year this year. Okay, MVP. Let's start in the National League again, just because it's the easy one for me. Even though it's a pretty tight race right now at the top. So I know Freddie Freeman is in the conversation. I know Corbin Carroll's in the conversation. I know Ronald Acuna is in the conversation. I've even seen Sean Murphy being thrown around in the conversation, which is great because I did not think that was a great trade. I didn't think that he would be as impactful as he has been as compared to what William Contreras was. I didn't think that they needed that big of an upgrade at catcher, but clearly I was wrong. So listen, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first one to tell y'all I'm wrong. And Sean Murphy has been better than you could have hoped for if you're the Braves, probably. This is easily his best season. And it's not really all that close. So maybe just getting out of Oakland. It is a pitcher's ballpark in Oakland, and obviously there's no talent around them. So how much did he really want to be there by the end? So, hey, maybe a change of scenery helped a lot. So, so I've seen those handful of guys being thrown around. I picked Acuna at the beginning of the year to win MVP, and I've seen nothing to change my mind. He is clearly back to MVP form. He should win MVP if he stays healthy. I would love the story of Corbin Carroll winning the MVP as a rookie, but I just feel like the way Ronald Acuna has battled back from his injuries, he had to watch his team win a World Series without him. Last year, he missed part of the year, and he just wasn't back to his form. He looked like himself. The power just wasn't there. The runs batted in wasn't there. The speed was there. The aggression was there. But for some reason, it just wasn't clicking. And this year, he is hitting absolute tanks all the time. I mean, he's hitting, I think he's got like 5 or 6 home runs that are like 450 feet or more. Like, he's just roasting the baseball right now. So I've seen nothing to make me deviate from my pick. I think Ronald Acuna will, at the end of the year, win MVP. That's not to say that Corbin Carroll or Freddie Freeman or any of those other guys can't win it, and it goes the same for all these awards. It's not to say somebody else can't win it, but for me, I haven't seen anything to tell me that Ronald Acuna is not going to win it. And I also trust Acuna way more down the stretch than I do a rookie, even a rookie who is playing as well as Corbin Carroll is. All it takes is a few pitchers going, hey, there's this thing that he does. There's this pitch that he can't hit. And now he's toast until he makes an adjustment. Whereas Ronald Acuna has been in the league for a few years now, and it's pretty clear he doesn't really have a whole lot of weaknesses in his game. He's a great fielder. He has a great arm. He's got incredible speed. He can steal bases. He walks a lot. He doesn't strike out a ton, and he hits for power. I mean, there's really not a whole lot that he can't do. So Acuna, you could have figured him out years ago, and you never did. No one ever figured out how to get Ronald Acuna out on a consistent basis. There's no one pitch that Ronald Acuna can't hit. There's a lot of hitters out there that struggle with one pitch, and he really doesn't have one. There's not a whole lot of guys that are like that. So Ronald Acuna, easy pick, sticking with it. AL MVP. If my memory serves me right, I picked Yordan Alvarez. Now, I have looked at the odds for the MVP voting since the beginning of the season. And as far as I can see, Yordan Alvarez is not on there. However, I still don't think it's that bad of a pick, and the reason is because right now he's hitting like 290. He's like 5th or 6th in the league with 17 home runs. He's 2nd in all of MLB in runs batted in. He has a 500 plus slugging. He's got almost a 400 on base percentage. His OPS is like 925. He is not having a bad year by any stretch. He has missed some games. He's only played in about 55 to 60 games out of, 75 or 70 games or 80. I don't know how many he's been played exactly. Something like that. So there's, a good amount of games that he's missed. Because of injuries and rest and all that stuff, and he doesn't play the field, so I understand why it's a lot more difficult for somebody like him to be in the MVP conversation. But I still don't think it's that bad of a pick, considering he is still very, very, very good, and he is leading the league, or at least up there in a lot of hitting statistics right now. So I don't hate my pick. I just understand that when I did pick him, I should say, it's just significantly more difficult for DHs to make the All-Star, or not the All-Star team, the MVP voting. He did it last year. He came in 3rd, but he also hit like 320 and had like 45 home runs and 130 RBIs. Like, he just was unbelievable. So this year, who's going to win AL MVP? I mean, not unfortunately. That's not what I meant. So I talked about Jokic kind of not doing what anybody else has been doing, and I mentioned that he is the Shohei Ohtani of basketball right now. Well, Shohei Ohtani is Shohei Ohtani, and he is like 3rd or 4th in Cy Young voting right now. And he's also like leading, he's in the MVP conversation because he has 18 home runs, and he's top 5 in RBIs in MLB, and he's hitting like 340, and not 340. He's probably not hitting that well. He's probably hitting like 295. But still, like, it's just ridiculous what he's doing. Shohei Ohtani is doing things that no one has ever seen done on a baseball field. You could talk about Babe Ruth all the heck you want. Babe Ruth didn't throw 100 miles an hour, and he didn't run like a gazelle or like a deer. Like, he didn't. Babe Ruth was a decent pitcher and a phenomenal hitter for his time. Shohei Ohtani is one of the best hitters of all time, talent-wise, and one of the best pitchers of all time, talent-wise, at the same time. It's unreal what he's doing. and I had mentioned this, if you guys have not watched the MLB all-time draft that I did with Max McCoy and Chase Burke, please go check that out because it was so much fun. I mentioned in that video that I don't blame MLB MVP voters for having Shohei Ohtani at the top of their list all the time because he's a phenomenal pitcher and a phenomenal hitter, and no one else is doing that. So, like, it's almost by default he's going to be up at the top of the list because no one else is doing what he's doing. Like, if there was 15 guys that were hitting and pitching at the same time, then, maybe it's a different conversation, even if he's really good at both. But there's no one doing it. He's the only one, and he's doing it so well that we're kind of looking at him as one of the best players ever already. And he's been in the MLB for like 4 years. It's insane. You can use whatever adjective or hyperlative or whatever the words are that you want to use. I don't know grammar. But he's ridiculous. So, like, yeah, he's going to be the favorite to win MVP pretty much every year. I'm picking Shohei Ohtani. I'm trying to think of who else might be up there outside of him. And I'm not coming up with it outside of maybe a Shane McClanahan is up there as somebody who could be up there for MVP voting at this point. I'm trying to even think who's leading the league in home runs right now. And I'm not coming up with anything. I know Jorge Soler has a bunch of home runs. I know he's up there, which is amazing. Good for him. I'm just not coming up with it right now off the top of my head. So, yeah. Pete Alonso is leading the league in home runs as far as I know, but I think he's injured right now, so he might have been surpassed by somebody. But the point is Shohei Ohtani is like 4th in home runs, but I'm pretty sure everybody that's above him is in the National League unless I'm forgetting somebody. So, yeah, Shohei Ohtani, to me, he's leading the league in home runs. He's like he's up there in the Cy Young conversation, so he's one of the best pitchers in baseball too. He's one of the best hitters. I'm tired, guys. One of the best hitters in baseball too. It's crazy. Yeah, Shohei Ohtani is probably going to win MVP this year. And I'm okay with it. I wish that it was a little different, but I'm still okay with it. But those are my picks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I'd love to have conversations with you guys to see if you think my predictions are bad, if you think they're good, or who do you think is going to win any of the MLB awards this year. All right, last thing I want to get into this week is going to be talking a little bit more about the Boston Celtics. Not necessarily their playoff run, because I don't ever want to talk about that again. But I want to talk about what they're going to be doing in the future. I talked last time about, what are they going to do with Jaylen Brown? I think they have to keep him. I think they have to re-sign him or trade him. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to swing a trade for him that's going to make you still be winning now and maximize that Jason Tatum window. But that is before I heard that Bradley Beal is being talked about in trade rumors over the last couple of days. The Wizards are trying to negotiate something to where he can go somewhere. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal grew up together. Now, Bradley Beal's obviously a little bit older than Jason Tatum. I think Bradley's 29 or 30 or 31, and Jason Tatum's obviously 24, 25, whatever he is at this point. So a few years apart, but they grew up in the same area, I believe in St. Louis. And they are really good friends on and off the court. Some people say they're best friends. I don't know if that's true, obviously, but they're friends. That's what I do know. And I know that Jason Tatum, I'm sure, would love to play with Bradley Beal, and I have a feeling Bradley Beal would love to play with Jason Tatum. And I've seen people talk about, different trade packages that, the Wizards might accept from the Boston Celtics to get Bradley Beal or for the Celtics to get Bradley Beal. So here's what I have to say. So while I understand the temptation to trade for Bradley Beal, I've seen people try to do it without trading Jaylen Brown, and I just think that's a very bad idea. Because if you don't trade Jaylen Brown, you're trading Derek White, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, sign and trade with Grant Williams. There's gonna be a real gutting of the depth of the team that I don't necessarily think you'd want at that point. So I think that trading Jaylen Brown for Bradley Beal would be the only way to make it make sense. And plus, if you're gutting your depth and you keep the core of Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, you've got three guys that essentially play the same or slightly different positions. It's going to be really awkward for all three of them to be on the court at the same time. Because none of them are primary ball handlers. None of them are, big men that are going to play. Jason Tatum can play the 4, but it's not his natural position. His natural position is a 3. Jaylen Brown and Bradley Beal essentially do the same things. They are shooting guard, small forwards. So what are you going to do at that point? You're going to force Jason Tatum to play the 4, which means Robert Williams or Al Horford is going to have to be on the bench, which means Robert Williams is going to be on the bench because Robert Williams is always the one on the bench when that happens. And so to me, it's just going to be, you're still switchable. It's still okay. But for me, it just wouldn't logistically make sense at that point. So that means you trade Jaylen Brown to get Bradley Beal. Now, if you're going to do that, you have to make sure. Because the Wizards are going to tell you that Bradley Beal is more valuable than Jaylen Brown. And I think that is ridiculous because long term, like 5-6 years down the road, obviously Jaylen Brown is going to be way more valuable to a team than Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is, again, I think he's 30 or 31, which means he's got probably 2, 3, maybe 4 years left before he starts to decline, if that. So if you're going to go all in and get Bradley Beal, they're going to have to convince the Wizards that Jaylen Brown is a more valuable than Bradley Beal, which I don't think the Wizards are going to believe. So let's say the Wizards don't believe that. What do? Okay. So what you do, if you're Boston, what I think you do is I think you do a sign and trade with Grant Williams. You re-sign him and then you put him in this trade package. You also trade Robert Williams because at this point, guys, I know we all love Robert Williams here as Celtics fans. I know. I love Robert Williams too. I've been screaming for him to play more. His plus-minus is ridiculous. When he's healthy, he's a great defender, shot blocker, rim protector, finisher, all that stuff. I understand that, but I promise you'll understand where I'm going with this when I tell you. So, Jaylen Brown. Sign and trade Grant Williams as well. Robert Williams on a real nice, friendly contract. Okay? One of your 3 guards, or you know what? I just realized Peyton Pritchard's still around, so maybe you can get away with Peyton Pritchard. Ideally, you get away with Peyton Pritchard in this scenario. So, Grant Williams, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, Peyton Pritchard, 2 first-round picks. Get you Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis, along with whatever other draft picks you feel like you should get. Now, I know you're going to think, Tyler, that is such a lopsided trade for the Celtics to make. You're going to get rid of Jaylen Brown, who you just admitted is more valuable than Bradley Beal. You're getting rid of a guy who could have been Defensive Player of the Year. You're getting rid of Grant Williams. And you're getting rid of Peyton Pritchard. And you're getting rid of draft picks, all for 2 guys and maybe some other draft picks. I'll tell you why it's not as unfair of a trade as you might think. Let's be honest with ourselves. Does Grant Williams do anything for the Celtics at this point? I don't think he adds anything. If he's going to ask for $20 million a year, he needs to go somewhere else because he's not worth that to the Celtics anyway. I mean, he might be worth that to somebody. I said this to people in public, and I've said this on the podcast, I think. If not, I'm going to say now. I think the Miami Heat would be a perfect fit for Grant Williams because he actually would start for them. He would play 25 or 30 minutes a night for them. He'd probably get more share of the offensive workload, and he's a great, versatile defender, and he's tough. He's gritty. He's perfect for the Heat. And they need a 4. So I think he'd be great for a team like that. I think he'd be great for a team like the Nuggets, even if they could afford him. I'm not sure they could. I don't know the contract situation over there in Denver, but there's plenty of teams that could use Grant Williams. I don't know if $20 million a year is a good price to pay for him, but there's teams that could get more use out of Grant Williams, including the Wizards. But for the Celtics, he's not as valuable to you as he would be to another team. Peyton Pritchard, same thing. Guys, I know we all love Peyton Pritchard. He is the fourth string point guard. We're not gonna miss him all that much if he goes. There's a reason why he wanted out. He wants to play more. He deserves to play more. We're just not the team that's gonna play him more. That's okay. That doesn't mean that he's a bad player. That doesn't mean that the team is stupid. It's just that there are better players in front of him, and he needs to go to a team where there's not better players in front of him. The Washington Wizards. So you now have two players that are more valuable to another team than they would be to you. Robert Williams. We love Robert Williams. But in order to get a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, you've got to give up some guys that are going to take those minutes. If you tried to swing this where you didn't include Robert Williams in this trade, you'd have to give Kristaps Porzingis 30 minutes, Al Horford 30 minutes, Bradley Beal 30 minutes, Jason Tatum 30 minutes, Jaylen Brown 30 minutes, although he wouldn't be on this team in this trade, but let's just pretend. You're going to have this giant cluster of guys that you just can't play all these minutes. So you've got to get rid of one of those guys, and you just need to present value in the trade. So Robert Williams, a guy who you could say, listen, he's on a team-friendly contract. He's had some injury history, right? He doesn't shoot the ball all that well, but he's a good passer. He does things well, but there's a lot of things he doesn't do well. So getting a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, who is a guy who is still a pretty good rim protector, but instead of just being a lob threat, he's a guy that can step 5 feet outside the line and shoot threes. He's a guy that can run a great pick and roll and dive to the rim, and he's still a good rim protector. And he's on a long-term deal that will, help kind of facilitate finances, and you're still getting a great player that can average 20 points a night for you. So he's going to give you a whole new dynamic to your offense, and in order to get a guy like that, you've got to give something up. Robert Williams, I think, is that guy. And then obviously Jaylen Brown, for all the reasons that I talked about. It just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for all three of Tatum, Brown, and Beal to be on the same team. Jaylen Brown seems like he wants to be out. We're not paying him $300 million. Please do not pay Jaylen Brown $300 million. We will never win a championship if we pay Jaylen Brown $300 million. Terrible idea. But if you trade him and the Wizards pay Jaylen Brown $300 million, they at that point are taking a calculated risk building around a guy who they feel has the potential to be a number one. Makes perfect sense for the Wizards to do so, because guess what? They don't have a Jason Tatum that's already a number one. If you pay Jaylen Brown $300 million, he will never be anything other than Robin. And you don't pay Robins $300 million. You pay Batman's $300 million. And no, I don't mean Grant Williams. Those of you who know. But if the Wizards pay Jaylen Brown $300 million, and there's not a player on that team that's better than him right now, other than Bradley Beal, of course. But if Bradley Beal's taken off that team, there's nobody better on that team than Jaylen Brown. You've now got a young core that you can actually start to somewhat build around. You've got Denny Avdia, you'll have Jaylen Brown, you'll have Robert Williams, you'll have Grant Williams, you'll have Peyton Pritchard. Honestly, that could be your starting five. It would be a little wonky because Avdia would have to play the 3 and he's really more of a 4, and Williams would have to play the 4 when he's really more of a 3/4, and then Williams would have to play the 5. And Pritchard, I don't remember who the point guard is in Washington right now, just blanking. But I mean, you're gonna have a really high pick in the draft, as far as I know. I don't remember exactly when, but you're gonna get some good players. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that the players for player trade makes sense. Now, the draft picks, I'm willing to dispute. Now, I, as a Celtics fan, would love us for them to give us draft picks for getting Jaylen Brown, because I think Jaylen Brown is more valuable than Bradley Beal. But they're not going to feel that way, and I wouldn't hate it if we gave up a couple of draft picks if they gave us some more draft picks in return. You know, if there were some pick swaps in there, that maybe we got the worst end of the deal in that. But you know what? If we need to do that to get those guys, I would be willing to do that. So that's my idea for a Jaylen Brown trade. I also would love Damian Lillard, but I think our point guards are already kind of crammed. So I don't know if that would make a whole lot of sense unless we traded Marcus Smart or something like that, which that's a whole nother can of worms. But let me know what you guys think about that trade. Which one of those teams says no if they propose that trade? Do the Celtics say no? Or do the Wizards say no? Or do neither of them say no? Do they both say no? I have no idea. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and I would be happy to respond to all of those and hear your guys' opinion. But that is going to do it, guys. That's it for me this week. I appreciate all of you listening or watching. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate and love every single one of you, and I will see you all next time.
Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends because, you know, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.